Hey folks, today we're taking a look at Transformers Car Robots Autobot Brothers. So let's get them out of their packaging and take a look. And here we have Mock Alert out of the box. Now you will notice instantly, I don't know how well that shows up in the camera, but he is already starting to yellow a little bit, especially in the back section of the vehicle mode. I have no idea why, but I think this white plastic just isn't all that great. You will also notice that I am missing a missile. I thought I had both of the missiles, and when I took him out of his little container, he was missing one, so I'm going to have to go onto eBay to buy a missile. Either that or hopefully find one in my giant collection back home. He is based off of a Lamborghini Diablo police highway pursuit vehicle. Now you might be wondering, there's no such thing as a Lamborghini pursuit vehicle. Yes, there is, actually. Lamborghini created a pursuit vehicle for the Italian Highway Patrol. Your guess is as good as mine as to why they decided to do that. But this is actually based on a real vehicle. Now Speedbreaker is based on a Dodge Viper, and Wild Ride is based on a Mercedes-Benz ML320 SUV. The one thing I do really like about the SUV for the Mercedes-Benz is the fact that you could see Wild Ride's head in there, and that was shown in the show, especially when the kid was first picked up by Wild Ride. Now Speedbreaker is, I think, one of the best looking of the three, simply because you don't get a lot of kibble. Yeah, you could see his head in vehicle mode, but I really like the look of the vehicle and the shininess of the plastic. Of all three of them, I think his is the most shiny and best looking. Mock Alert isn't bad looking by any means. I just don't care for the amount of kibble you can see through the windows and underneath the vehicle mode. But all three vehicle modes are strong and very good looking, so that is definitely a positive. Each one of the Autobot Brothers has a very unique and different transformation. Now in the show, in the intro, you see the transformation done with 3D models, while in the actual show, it's done in traditional hand animation. It's a very, very strange correlation there. I don't know why they decided to do that in the intro versus the actual show. So we're going to go ahead and get into the transformations now, and we're going to start off with Mock Alert. I would have to say Mock Alert's transformation is one of the easiest of the three. To start off with, we'll just take the vehicle mode and open the doors. That's the first thing we're going to do. And when you open the doors, you want to fold them out along the wheels. Then take the hood and push the hood up, and then unhinge the top of the roof and the front windscreen. Then collapse the hood up underneath the windscreen like that. That will then free up room to flip out the legs and pop a ball joint, which I always seem to do. So fold out the other leg like that, and then come around and turn the legs around and turn the feet around. So you want the feet and the blue pointing down. Then take the doors and fold them pointing to the front of the vehicle mode, and then take the front wheels and push them up into the body. Then what we're going to do is move the camera, take the top of the vehicle mode, reach behind the tail lights, and just kind of work it until you can pull them apart. But first, reach between the wheels and push this section down, fold it down, push it in to form the chest, and fold the exhaust tips up, and then unpeg the top of the vehicle, fold out the arms, and fold them down. And the entire rear of the vehicle becomes a shield on the figure's one arm, specifically the left arm. Turn it around, and there we go. Next up we'll do Wild Rider. Wild Rider is probably my favorite of the transformations because it's fun. First we will reach underneath and unpeg the runners. These will actually become part of his backpack or a missile. So we'll start off by opening up the doors, like that, and then grabbing the back, or the roof of the vehicle, and the back of the vehicle, pull the back of the vehicle down and out, and then pull out his legs from the back of the SUV, And this is where things get a little silly. The first thing we're going to do is take the front of the vehicle and fold it out and pull it straight out to form one of the arms. Reach inside and push the head up and turn that so it's pointing forward. So we have the front of the vehicle pointing this way. Take the back of the vehicle and fold it down. Meanwhile, reach under behind the torso and fold out the right arm. And then take the back and move that, or turn that around. And then reach under here, and you can either try and pull it out or just take the wheel and push it in to fold out his left arm. Reach behind the, or reach underneath back where the spare tire is to fold out the feet. And here we have his robot mode just about done. Then we could take the sections that we pulled off and attach them to his back. Like that. And there we go. Finally, Speedbreaker is the most complex of the three. Now, I just knocked off the muffler, which is actually his missile, so we'll put that off to the side. Pull the entire rear bumper off of the figure. This will become his gun. Now, this is where this figure is kind of crazy. We're going to start by opening the doors. And then we're going to take the rear wheel wells and pull them down. These will fold out the legs from here. Okay, so that was pretty easy, right? Well, now we get into the difficult part. What I like to do is first unpeg the front bumper. And that will free up the hood and the doors for us to manipulate in a bit. Then unpeg the entire roof of the car. So the roof, the rear windscreen, and the front windscreen. And that is on a hinge. So this is where things are starting to get a little bit nuts. So I like to just kind of get this and move it off to the side and then free up the hood and the doors like that. So this is the front of the vehicle here where the bumper is. Then what we're going to do is unpeg the other arm from underneath the chest piece. And that is pegged in pretty tight. So we unpeg that and then swing that piece down and around like this. Now you could do this a couple of ways. You could try and swing it under like this, or you could get this out of the way, turn the bumper upside down, and then while the whole thing is up like this, swing the entire section around. Or you could just move this entire section out and then swing it around this way. So the point is you want to get the wheel inside, pointing down, and then you fold that into behind the chest piece. And then you fold the whole section down, which will push the head up, and then you can swing the other arm around and lock it into place. And I did not get the wheel in the right spot because it's not closing all the way. Alright, there we go. The head was in the way. Sorry. If it looks complicated, that's because it is. It's just kind of nuts. But once you get all the kibbly bits out of the way and lined up, you have Speedbreaker good to go. Each of the three head sculpts are really nice. They are very well detailed and just look incredibly good on each of the figures. Speedbreakers, I did have to fool with the lighting a little bit because of the white plastic. The white plastic really reflects the lights that I have. but I like the asymmetry on Speedbreaker's face. He's got the weird light piping on the one side of the head and then the visor on the other with the antenna. I like the look of Speedbreaker. Mach Alert looks just as good, and he really does have a very Hawk-like look to him. While X-Brawn, yes, while Wild Rider has just a tough and gruff look to his head. I really do enjoy these head sculpts. They all look equally good. It is very surprising how posable these guys are, considering how much vehicle kibble there is. And what I mean by kibble is they've got a lot of the alt modes just hanging off of them. That was a really weird thing about this line, is the fact that the vehicle modes for the Autobots just have a lot of their vehicle modes just hanging off of them, or their vehicle mode parts are incorporated as shell pieces, really. And it's a very, very interesting aesthetic, but I'm glad we moved away from that in subsequent lines. So we'll start the posability talk off here with Mach Alert. Mach Alert's head is on a swivel. There is a ball joint, though limited, here in the shoulder, a hinge joint just beyond the shoulder for forward and back movement, and a ball joint at the elbow. Hands do not move. No torso articulation, but there is a ball joint at the hip, a ball joint at the knee, and a ball joint at the foot. You can get off some decent poses, though there are, like I said, issues with all the stuff from the vehicle mode just hanging off of him. That is an issue. Now, I'm not going to lie, it is an annoyance and an issue, but given the complexity of these figures, it's not that bad. Now, I will admit that Mach Alert's joints are a bit loose. His ball joints in his hips and knees are rather loose and haven't really stood the test of time, unfortunately. But his paint scheme is very nice, and I like the overall look. However, I like the blue super version of Prowl a lot better than this version. I never did get that version, but the white version is pretty good. So let's take a look at Wild Rider next. Now, Wild Rider, or Wild Ride, oops, I did forget to fold the wheels in. His posability is just as equally as good. Head is on a swivel, though it is actually a ball joint, though that's only for the transformation. Both arms are on swivels, but the one arm is on a ball joint. The other arm is more on a swivel because, again, the transformation. Right arm elbow is on a ball joint. Left arm elbow is a hinge. Right fist has no articulation. Left fist is on a ball joint and has an articulated thumb. Hips are ball joints. Knees are hinge joints. There's a second joint at the shin for the transformation, and no foot articulation. He is the least posable of the group, and that's primarily because of, well, he's lacking articulation, and two, he's poorly balanced. Let's put it that way. He's just not very well balanced with this giant hood for an arm. Though of the three, he is my favorite aesthetically. I really like the look of him. It just works for me. Now, I like this version a lot more than the Super version, and a lot more than I believe this guy was repainted into Universe Ratchet at one point. So, for his weapons, you can plug both weapons into his right fist as missiles, or he can hold both weapons in his other hand as handheld weapons, like that. So, like I said, this guy is my favorite just because I'm partial to SUVs, I think. But I just like him. No, he's not as posable as either of the other two, but he's a lot of fun, and I like the aesthetic of him the best. So, posability-wise, though, he is by far the worst of the three. So, let's take a look at Speedbreaker. Now, Speedbreaker's accessory is his gun thingy. His bumper gun. The missile does shoot, and they all do have shooting missiles, except for a Mach Alert, which is more of a push missile. So we'll take his gun and put that off to the side. Head is a swivel. Both arms have ball joints. Then there are swivel joints right below that. Both elbows are hinge joints. Fists do not move. Both hips are ball joints. There are no swivels on the legs. Ball joint at the knee, and then just above the ball joint is a hinge, and then ball joint at the foot. Now, of the three, Speedbreaker has held up the worst, especially for mine. All of the joints from the hips down are incredibly loose. Very, very loose ball joints. And I think that's just because of the amount of times I've transformed him. He is just incredibly loose. It doesn't help that he's top heavy. Oh, and I missed that there is a swivel joint here at the torso. He's very top heavy with all of this kibble hanging off of him in the back, on the shoulder, and this really should be twisted around like that, but that's my personal preference. But aesthetically, I don't care for Speedbreaker. He's just got all these shell bits hanging off, and I just do not like that. They get in the way constantly. They're just really annoying. Aesthetically, I don't care for Speedbreaker. I like his head, I like his chest, but just all the kibble, I do not like hanging off of him. It's not something I particularly care for. The other issue I have with him are his knees. Because of the hinge, because of the transformation, the hinge and then the ball joint, you have some problems with the knees, because when you go to pose him, you only need one of two joints to slip, and he'll just fall right over. So that is an issue. The three Autobot brothers represent something unique in Transformers. We have, besides Sunstreaker and Sideswipe, we've never had real brothers before, and these guys were brothers. They actually referred to each other as brothers. Wild Rider being the oldest, followed by Mach Alert being the middle, and Speedbreaker being the youngest. And they all have distinct personalities, and they act like and behave like a family, and they act like brothers would. They fight, they come together at times, and they're just interesting. They are all unique, but they're all connected, and I find that very fascinating. And these guys are just fun. They're fun to have. They all have issues. All of these figures have issues. Wild Rider has stability issues, Mach Alert has just kibble issues and standing issues, and Speedbreaker has, well, he has red sports car issues. As Transformers fans, I think we can gravitate to one, if not all, of these brothers. They are all interesting characters, as I said. Now, I did forget to show you one thing with Wild Rider. His hood does open, and this front bumper becomes a handheld weapon. Other than that, though, these guys are just neat. So, if you can, I would get a hold of them. Go ahead and get the American versions. They are exactly the same from these being the Japanese versions. The one thing I will admit, though, I'm surprised that these guys aren't holding up that well. They have been out of the sunlight, they have been in their bins, they've been in their boxes, but they're incredibly loose, and they're not very stable in robot mode, I'll say. So, that being said, get the American versions if you want to get a hold of these guys. I particularly gravitate toward Wild Rider. I think he's a lot of fun. I think he's really cool, otherwise known as X-Brawn here in the US. Some folks will like Mach Alert for his police car mode and the overall angularness of the vehicle mode, also known as Prowl here in the US. And Speedbreaker is, well, I think a masochist might like Speedbreaker. Okay, that's being facetious. That's not being fair. There are plenty of people that are going to like Speedbreaker, also known as Sideburn here in the US. So, guys, go ahead and get one of these. Find the one figure you like, and just pick them up. I've seen them on eBay for going for pretty cheap. So, like I said, they're fun, and they're worth having in your collection. Though, I would stay away if you don't like things with a lot of kibble.